Hey guys, so long time no see for a multitude of reasons. First of all, I have had the decision for a while. I haven't even opened it up. It's quite thick. And I'll explain deadlines and things, but then also what I can't explain or shouldn't talk about yet. So let me make all of that really clear. First of all, whenever I have one of these decisions, I have to take into consideration Diane and her son and safety and stuff. And I also like to tell things to her first, especially if it's like, complicated. It doesn't sound like great news. I don't want her to see a video before she's actually heard it from me directly. And also, back around the time that this decision was rendered, I was traveling and then I was sick. So I got back and this had been sitting there for a little while. It took them a long time to render this. It looks like it was done on March 9th, or at least that's when it was mailed. I think it was entered, though, in a little bit later than that to the actual system, uploaded as a file. So that date matters. But timeline wise, I'm not going to go into that because really that only helps the victimizers. But let's just put it this way. What I had to file, I actually could have waited. I would have even more time to file it, but I've already filed it. It's been accepted. And then the second piece of the puzzle is always the fees. So they make it really expensive to appeal. So my appeal would have been like $800. So I'm going to put in again for the fee waiver, which that filing was accepted just the other day. But they look at it after they accept the file. That means I filed it correctly. It doesn't mean that they're granting it. I'm still under the other one. So it looks like they screwed up because I had an increase in income that should have pushed me out of getting a fee waiver. That's why I'm indicating something on this one. There's multiple ways where you can get a fee waiver. So I filled that out a certain way. I do qualify as I see it. So the filing was accepted, and then we'll see what they say about that. Then I have to file another one with the other court. So with the other court, basically what happens is, and I'll leave the timeline in the air, they're going to end up sending me a notice, and it's automatic that I can appeal this case. And then they will go from there with sending me, once they send that, that's when the time starts. And I'll just leave up in the air how much time I have on that, but I know. And that's when I'll go over the ins and outs, because obviously this is quite thick. They have their convoluted reasoning, and I'll have mine countering it. I know with the first situation where I was granted the breach option to redraft and frame it around breach, I noticed there were some legal errors in the reasoning on several of the points that don't fit the circumstances of the case. And I could have gone into that, but instead I thought that the breach, because we have so much there, was a good option, a better option. So I went ahead and did that. So I'm sure there will be similar here, because they aren't really looking at this the way that we have. They're really always going to push for Section 230 to bar the claim, but I don't yet know what the arguments are. But I do know, just like with the other situation, there will be an argument to rebut, because this is a very unusual case. And let me share with you some stats on all of this. So first of all, obviously, I wasn't granted injunctive relief. Like that was one of my requests, was that, hey, I either want to litigate, or if not that, injunctive relief. I've proven up that you ought to just make them take the action. But obviously, if that had happened, I would have been making a totally different type of video. So first of all, what's happening, even though it's not perfect, it's very good. It means the case is active. And it's very unusual. It's something that happens in, and I'm not joking, less than 1% of cases. So we'll get into some of that. So let me show you guys something. Let me share my screen. And if you just even go into like Copilot or the chatbot, you can get some of these stats. But pro se litigants almost never survive a Section 230 demurrer. So a Section 230 demurrer basically is YouTube and Google trying to say that you can't bring an action against us because of Section 230, meaning that they are protected from any claims against something that a third party did on their platform. But there are exceptions to Section 230. This case meets almost every single one of them. So pro se litigants like myself almost never get a leave to amend. On top of that, pro se litigants almost never reach appeal. Pro se litigants almost never win on appeal. So my experience of having 3 hearings, a leave to amend, and a record sufficient enough for appeal is genuinely unusual. Section 230 dismissals occur before any hearing usually. So usually a case like mine wouldn't have had a hearing. As soon as I filed the case, they would have dismissed it. But because of what was contained within my case, that didn't happen. And the way that I framed it up. And then if a hearing occurs, most cases are dismissed at that first hearing, except what I presented in that first hearing was compelling enough that we even went back and forth for a while, and then he needed to look at it, and we had 2 more hearings. So that's very unusual. And then very, very few cases survive long enough to have an appealable record, let alone an amended petition, and then an appealable record. So reverses are extremely rare. So I want to prepare everybody for that, just like I've always prepared you for. We've got some unusual things going on, and we have some hope there, but it's very, very, we've got everything stacked against us. But things are changing in this realm of law. And I know, people think, well, God, what good does that do the victims? But there are going to be other victims, and it will do somebody some good. And we will be at the forefront of being some of the people who tried to make some of this happen. And we may make something happen that will add to protection for victims like Diane and her son and that little girl. And all the people that are on YouTube watching this guy who are, potential victims, vulnerable youth, mentally unwell. People like Annette watch YouTube. He victimized her allegedly, didn't he? In real life. And how many people like that might find him and, turn him into their favorite person and think all kinds of things about him, make contact with him, give him their money, their body, who knows what. So, these kinds of things are starting to become such a big issue that they're not being overlooked anymore. You can't just do whatever you want and say, well, sorry, we're just playing host. That would be like if you opened up a business and people went in there, violating children and doing all kinds of crazy things. And you said, well, I just have this business here. It's not my fault that people are crazy and do crazy things. Well, it kind of is, because you know about it. And if you facilitate it, it's your problem. And that's what they've decided happened with Meta losing that case. They just lost Facebook. And it was over such lesser crime than this, when you think about it. It was over them facilitating, the addictive quality of the platform itself and stuff like that, harming kids. But, and they do know about that. They study that. They design it to be that way. But we're talking about someone that actually, predatorily runs scams, preys on kids, and by preys on kids, I mean, he told us that we're to buy the best kids to ride, and that riding your own is normal. And he told us he's riding his. And that's no joke. That's what he said in April 2023. And after I made it part of the case, he took it down. I'm the only person that's actually made the guy take down videos. So, a lot of people get real braggadocious on YouTube. I really don't, but after being put through quite a bit and being threatened yet again, and the way that I've been threatened and what I've been put through here, I do have the right to state what I've actually accomplished here. And that I don't, stop working on something just because it's not just a total easy win. I certainly didn't expect this to be like that. It's still something that if we keep pushing forward, the only people that ever accomplish anything are the ones that do, the ones that are stoic enough to do that. So that's what we're doing. But my situation is indeed rare here. And let me show you the cases that have won. Only 3 in similar situations, and they were very wealthy people. Let me go down here, because I was asking the percentages because I was curious. I knew they were small, but reversals are extraordinarily rare. A handful have pierced Section 230 on appeal, and they've made that such a fortress, where, people that have actually lost family members and the platform was warned and kept on allowing them to be on there and everything else. They've won their cases against these people. But Wozniak versus YouTube 2024, there was a partial reversal. He's a billionaire. And by the way, I've been saying billionaires all along, but it's actually trillionaires. So they are trillionaires. Anderson versus TikTok, algorithmic recommendation not protected, and Khalees versus Meta, contract claims survive. So those are the exceptions, and none of those are pro se, by the way. So basically right here where my case sits is that I'm in the 80th percentile who didn't get dismissed with no hearing. 80% of people would be. And then 15 to 25 would be dismissed beyond that at the first hearing. So that's 95% of cases. We beat that. back in 2024 and 2025. And then 1 to 3% survive long enough to even appeal. And then as a pro se, I'm in the less than 1% category. So look what we've already done, though. That's extraordinary here. And again, I say we because this is a collective effort. I've had people send me evidence. I've had people, and really without that evidence being available and the people that have provided it, from Diane finally now writing a legal letter to the company itself and their parent companies, and providing evidence, a sworn affidavit, and in the midst of what she's having to do, taking the time and a little bit of risk to do that and send that to me is a big deal. And now they really, really can't say that they don't know that there is a victim here and a child victim as well, who is telling them in a sworn affidavit everything that he's done on this platform. We just have an ungodly amount of evidence here. And I have already beaten a lot of these stats. So if I went on appeal, I'll be in the 0.1 to 0.3% tier. That seems like unbelievable or something that couldn't happen, but obviously this other stuff is as well and did happen. So I wasn't at all surprised that I would have to appeal. I just was hoping I wouldn't have to hear about it anytime soon. And they had us waiting a long time, and really waiting a long time built up a little bit of hope also. It meant, though, I knew it meant that they had to convolute a drawn out bunch of shit. This thick packet will contain a lot of ins and outs where they worm, which you can do with law, their way into trying to make the facts of this case apply to the law in such a way where they find an out on these points. They wouldn't have to do all of this with a nothing case that they could easily dismiss. They do this with cases where there is something that has occurred. So, what I have to do is prove up that the application of the law goes the other way. And I can do that. I could have done that with the other case, but I was offered the opportunity to frame it up around breach. And that gives me more standing and would work better, considering the retaliatory. And I'm sure that will be what one of the main arguments against some of this will be. The retaliatory shutting down of content. People have talked about that before, and they don't even have good case law. Partly it's why also when I spoke to Priscilla the last time, her attitude towards me shifted to much more, at first they were real vampiric and snarky. Then when they saw that I had a judge listening to me, they were like, whoa, what the hell? And then this time it was almost like and I stopped also mincing words. I told them, look, you're ignoring a pedo and a wanted fugitive, attempted child murderer, and you don't care about anything but money. And that's how it really is. Let's just not bother beating around the bush. But I know you're going to do that and pretend Section 230 protects you. So if we have to have a meeting, let's just have it. She knew she wasn't dealing with somebody that was, going to give up. And she also was worried because I had bended the judge's ear. And I also, they don't normally deal with people like families that hire attorneys that work in tech law. Also, those cases are a bit different, but like if they were talking to the family or to the person involved in the case, that person wouldn't really have an understanding of the application of the law. So it just kind of freaked her out that it wouldn't end. And I could tell there was sort of a power shift where she didn't feel so powerful towards me and didn't think she would get me to give up by just acting really nasty, and I would not understand what was going on. Because when we first started, also, there were a lot of things about this area of law that I didn't understand that I do now. But I'm sure within the framework of this, they'll go into how they can arbitrarily take up and down whatever they want as a private corporation. Moderation is under their discretion and so forth. And they use such terrible case law using PragerU. And it'll be interesting to read when I get a chance what she has to say there, because I pointed out PragerU, they were committing legal speech online. It's not even a similar enough case because of that aspect. And I will argue that further with using further examples again, if I need to, because in this case, we are talking about illegal speech. And there are some arguments about that. They tried to use the Uber. It's funny, they got off of social media. They couldn't really find one like this. So that's another interesting aspect. And we have all these new rulings as well. It's funny, had this case just been brought a little bit later, there's some good things that could be cited. But nonetheless, we are pioneers in this effort. So that case also pointed out, whether or not a company is aware of facilitating crime or not, what their obligations are to know that and to do something in a timely manner. And what's funny is with the case that they used, it was reversed on appeal. So whoever they handed it off to, whatever paralegal, yeah, didn't do a very good job there. And I'm going to frame up a very good set of arguments when I have a chance to go through this. So let me also talk about like my situation, like Monday with my job. And this, I'm going to tie this into some things that are said to me by this trash online. I wouldn't mind touching on that. So Monday, I have a set of depositions this upcoming Monday. I mean, I'll start at like 6:30 in the morning, prepping everything, and then we'll be going until late in the evening. It'll probably be that same time in the 6 o'clock-ish that we finish. So, I love what I do. That case is about a child that was medically harmed. What I do has to do with making medical situations safer for people. I also just got through drafting, and I'll be finishing it up in May because there's one aspect we haven't finished, but a therapy dog policy for a cancer center so kids can have dogs in there with them. This is awesome. Sometimes, Goatis encourages people to never bother learning how to do anything because in nature, you'd just be out there trying to get the easy money. That doesn't work out too well for people in the real world. And that being said, school sucks. I hated school. I think a lot of people that love learning actually hate school. But the flip side of that is sometimes you have to go to school to get some things that you want. So one thing you can do is you can pick something you actually like, that you actually want to do and are good at. Pick something, also go to an area. I left where I was from to go to school because I didn't like going to school where I was from. I wasn't enjoying it. And I went somewhere that had one of the top paralegal programs in the country. And I knew I needed a 2-year technical degree in order to go and do what I wanted to do. I actually started working in the field before I even had the degree. So I stopped wasting money. I transferred into a bachelor's program, but I didn't bother finishing that. But then I did go on and finish, and I got a certification, a national certification. So yeah, you can do a lot of things. You can take whatever time you want on it, but if you know what you want to do and you need it to make money, then go and do it. And if there's a lot of cool things now that people are going to be able to do, like that Maestro thing, where people that are really technically inclined, they can learn how to do stuff technical on their computer, and they'll be basically teaching themselves. I feel like a lot of classes I was in, I was teaching myself. And it would be really aggravating to have to go to class and sit there watching the teacher regurgitate the book. But I did have like 2 or 3 teachers that had like open-ended, really did want to know what we thought about stuff, really did want to have us do like an open mock trial, mock debate. And this was super fun. And you actually could speak freely, and they didn't penalize you for having thoughts that they don't particularly agree with. And that's how it should be. A teacher should be a neutral party, but oftentimes they're not. And we all know that. So Goat Boy, uses things that we all know. Like, we know school sucks. We know teachers are a lot of times losers who weren't very good in their field, and they ended up teaching instead of doing something. And that's not to knock all teachers. There are teachers who are cool people who enjoy teaching people something. But a lot of them are messed up people. Like in anything. And we've all had that experience. The solution to that is not to just go be a thief and a loser, there are all kinds of ways to navigate around the bad things we all deal with on this planet. And he is one of the bad things we deal with on this planet, unfortunately. And let me show you something, because let me just put out a FAFO warning. I'm fine with people saying anything they want to about me that's subjective. You can think anything you want to about anybody or anything. That's fine. I'm all for legal free speech of all kinds that offends people, that people don't like. You can watch something else if you just don't like someone's opinion of something. This is really different than illegal. The things that we all agree as a society that's even remotely decent shouldn't be legal, and that it's not legal, like harming children, murder, RAPE, death, destruction, insanity, So when that kind of stuff is directed at me, and I've had this same troll bothering me for upwards of a year and a half or something, and they come back with a new account all the time. I thought it was Kathy, because this person speaks in a very feminine way at times, and it sounds almost gay or something, which is why I came up with that theory. But I don't know if that's correct anymore. I actually don't think it is. Now that I know more also about Gaddis and his history and stuff, of how, in my opinion, he wanted to be his girlfriends, not just be with them, So I think that's him. And I'll show you. And I got something sent to me privately. Don't know who sent it, but other people that would investigate it would know. So it would be wise to cease and desist sending me any of this crap anymore. But let me show you the kind of thing I'm talking about. So I shared this little video, and it was just of some kids where this little boy was obviously like special needs, and this other boy who could have easily made this incredible shot made sure that this other little boy felt like he did it. So I thought that was super cute and cool. A friend of mine showed it to me. And so underneath this cute little video is this asshole. And he was on my other GILF. So yeah, he'd like to F me. And he's always got like free Palestine. And no matter what people's opinions are of any war, I have mine. And I have been a Palestine supporter for decades. So it's kind of, this is really offensive and disgusting to me. And that doesn't mean that I am a fan of Hamas or hate people from Israel or whatever. But I'm just saying that I, do think what's happened to them is pretty brutal. And nonetheless, this is fake and evil and disgusting because Gaddis is the person who has been using Islamic logic, what he believes is Islamic logic, to cite that he believes, that women from these countries, the way that they're so brutally treated is the way it ought to be. He said that in content, including content that was sent to me on Facebook from someone. And yeah, they just have a real obsession with the wrapping the women up like a burrito, abusing women thing, and sending it to me. But this here person, let's go look at their account. And on one of my piano playing videos, he sent me stuff. Well, here are some of his comments, like, I'm in love with you, Emily. I wish you became my property, and pretending he can't spell property. So whenever I get new trolls that also pretend they can't spell the Netherlands and say all kinds of crazy shit to me, it's the same shithead. So, but let's look at his channel, because this was sent to me in my email. Now I'm going to give a warning right now, and I'll flash something on the screen. This is, you can see from the picture there, that might be all I should show. Pirsuna. This is video after video of women with their faces attacked, and this was sent to me via email. So this is meant to be disturbing. They're amping up their violence. Also, that comment that I got recently suggesting that something I'm doing would make him try to hurt his son. I know what verbiage that sounded like, the way the writing was. Basically, Gaddis Legends has had sock puppets on YouTube for decades. That's part of the sworn affidavit in this case, including showing what they are, like color posts that were banned. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't think I want to show that on my channel, other than I do want to make a public statement about that. I am very tired of being threatened in not only roundabout ways, but directly by this scum, while I battle trillion-dollar corporations who are spending thousands on this to get something done about it. That is already a matter of law. You can't promote child sex abuse material on YouTube or Google. You can't file false defamation complaints, and then all of the people you filed it against, even when your lawyer quit you and they've shown evidence proving up they're false, that material is still taken down or hidden in countries. I've had over 20 videos hidden in Germany and the Netherlands. Interesting choices of countries, right? But their content, including the one where he's asking for money against a kidnapper who they know isn't a kidnapper, a molester who there are no molestation charges against. Meanwhile, that person is a wanted fugitive who has said he's graping his child on their platform, and we showed him the video of him doing it, who has multiple times said incest is normal and natural and promoted it, and we showed him doing it. Who has run scams on the platform, and we showed him doing it. So it's pretty obvious. Basically, the status quo of hiding behind 230 and of maintaining that members of the public bringing cases showcasing this kind of crime and violence not getting anywhere is how they want it to stay. But that's changing. Look at the meta ruling, and that was over such smaller stuff than this, frankly. Because I do believe it's bad that they've designed things to be addictive for kids and stuff, and bad for their well-being. But as a parent, you could turn the damn thing off. But as a platform, they know what they're playing host to. So the argument was that Meta knew what they were doing and to those kids and that it caused harm. Talk about knowing that you're doing something that could cause harm. It has caused harm. And she has till 2027 to bring that case, and she could go beyond that because of being in hiding. And we're going to go all the way with this. So I'm taking this as far as I can. It's further than any case like it's ever gone, to tell you the truth, because literally there are no pro se litigants, if you look this up, that have ever done this. So I've already beaten up to the 1% to 3% mark. And so up to that same mark, I might beat this on appeal and reverse this decision and go into trial. But the case is still active. And also, Diana's now moving into working on doing some media. She really needs to reach out to media. That is what will blow this up as much as, if not more than, the courts. Although if I were to be able to win a trial, that would be a big deal. I pushed into May going into the stuff that I'm having published because I need to finish it. I actually got delayed because of normal work. And I'll get that done though. And that is a big deal as well, because it will be one of the few things like it that's been published, and it will be there forever. And it'll be something that's discoverable for people involved in the legal world to read and see. So at any rate, we're going to keep on doing what we can. It's not like you want to talk about a story this grim all the time. And that's the whole thing this channel was about. And only part of it was jokey in nature, just to make it entertaining, obviously. And it's not like these people aren't funny. People that are kooky and crazy often are quite funny, and they don't mean to be, but they are. But this is also quite evil and sick and dangerous for the people who are waiting for something to be done. So I'll do what I can. And I always also want to reiterate that I encourage people to do things safely. I have lamented the fact that because I just felt so motivated to do this, I did it the way that I did it. And it's really, really hard to bring a case as a Jane Doe. It takes forever, and the response would have been very different, and I'd already filed it. I was then going to seal my records, and since I've never been a part of anything like this, I took that to mean, well, I'll just do it as myself, but then I'll seal the records. But it doesn't work that way. It's very hard to seal records as a civil litigant, and I managed to do that. They made me file things with extra law within the framework of it in order to do that. But I got it done, and that's also rare when you're not a Jane Doe to get your address, email address, phone number, and all that sealed, but I did it. So I did do it, though, under my name, and I did it under my likeness once they started threatening me with pretending that I'm impersonating Belle, because I only used Belle's face on the channel initially. So I, in retrospect, would do this a little bit differently since these are psychos. But the flip side of it is ethically, do I regret what I did? Absolutely not. But I encourage other people to do things safely. But I would encourage people to do things, there's so much you can do, even small things like Soft Blue Horizon was talking about playing Diane's videos on a loop and streaming them to get monetization for her channel. Boy, does Boy ever hate that, the idea that someone could just live, Armine sharing my videos. I've made my stuff like Creative Commons. I haven't cared about monetizing it or using this to get money or anything because I haven't had to spend money on the case, and I don't care about using YouTube for a livelihood that much. So, money's great, but I don't care. So people can share my material if it's to help, and if it's, I do appreciate credit for work, obviously, but if it helps and it's being used to help, use it. Same thing goes for things that you want to do, but do take safety into consideration. I've had some people a couple times have offered to get involved with things, and I've admonished them, and then they kind of back off because it kind of scares them. And that's understandable. I'd rather them be safe than do something that they regret later with me not being forthcoming that, this isn't, these people are crazy. And, you are dealing in something that's dangerous. So that being said, though, they have an FBI file. So let's put a bug in their ear on messing with me that both of you have an FBI file. The one that threatened me before and this person, that's going into that as being who I think it is. So somebody's taking a look at that and at the things I get that are like that, especially that are sent directly to me. So there's that. This idea also that Goatis promotes that, like unless you live like him, where you have managed not to have to work in any way, like you're just going to be so miserable and everything else. First of all, everybody has some hardships in life, but I wouldn't wish trying to outrun the popo and always needing to find somebody to leech off of on my worst enemy. Now, some of my jobs I've had in the past part of my life were awful, and but I got through that, and that's why I made sure that I didn't want to end up in that situation. I have a lot of freedom and leeway in my work. I used to work from home, which I preferred, but in this situation, I'm able to kind of move about freely. I'm the only legal entity where I work. I am their legal person. So, and I, get to travel and do things, interview people, research things. A lot of times I'll work a really long day and then I'll take 3 off. So like, I like what I do. I, think it's really funny that he's always wanting to promote the idea that everybody else is unhappy and he's happy. And he'll use anything anybody says about being a little bit unhappy in a moment. Like you can't be, those of us that are honest about life, we're going to have moments where we're stressed or unhappy. He pretends he's completely stress-free and slap happy all the time. He doesn't even look happy. So obviously that isn't true. So he doth protest too much on that front. The rest of us are just regular people who navigate life with a combination of, moments that are less happy and moments that are happier, because life can throw you a curveball. But let's take a look at some of these other trolls because this is interesting. So on my Primal Bell Parody account, I get notifications. And so like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 3 days ago, and then they had a bunch of comments, and there go 4 days ago. So they go on one of my old videos, and it's just comment after comment after comment, and pretending they can't spell words, and thinking they're injecting something untruthful, and then I'll spend time answering it. So this was a video that I made a while back, telling people in Malaysia, should they happen to be there, how to turn them in. And so I did this a while back. Like, when did I get this video made? That's a month ago. So 4 days ago. And of course, look, fact XYZ, haha, you're so obsessed. He's living way better than you are. 0 arguments against Goatis, just trying to get his fame. Where did you get this hate? You could have harassed anyone. Pretending they can't spell harassed. Yeah, I'm supposedly obsessed because he's living way better than me. Is he really? I own property. I can openly own it. I can travel about freely. I don't have to worry about the popo on me. I don't need other people to drive me around. I don't need other people to make money for me. Yep, I wanted to be the bald fugitive who trolls people every day from sock accounts. He's not bald? What do you mean, sock accounts? And what's wrong with him being a fugitive? He's anti-government. You're part of the government. Uh-huh. I said, flip it. I'm the revolutionary and Goatis is the system. Get lost, random fan. What are you talking about? You're really just jealous. You said that already. Get some new material. It's cringe as the weave. 0 arguments against Goatis. Crying about crime when he said he doesn't care about law and that he's the government. Ha, you don't make sense. And him calling himself Jesus means he's calling himself a prophet, a person who's there to inform the people. You tried to change what he meant. Your pointless posts on my channel are the harassment. Take your fake account elsewhere. Go give a fugitive 200 and tell him he's Jesus. He's not famous, but he will be. Poop and clown. Yeah, profit of not leaving people alone. Let's see, profit of promoting child sex, including with your own baby, 1 to 2 years old. Promoting baby head football. Promoting not leaving your ex alone to the point of you could go anywhere in the world and do anything you want, but you're at her back fence like a loser with a new woman who's completely nuts, who pays for the private investigator to find your ex because you can't even just be with her. You have to be with her to look at your ex some more. That's winner material, right? So, and then let's see what else. Profit of then getting a woman online from the internet, like that you bought basically because she was on a website while married. And that's a real winner, isn't it? You get her to, her daughter and husband, and they place her in the Netherlands on the warrant. You get them to help you go attack your ex because you can't forget about her and try to unalive your baby because him not existing would mean what for you? Would make you a respectable man somehow? You're worried about competing with a baby boy or something? It's just all so insane. It's Norman Bates level shit. So yeah, I'm super jealous of Norman Bates #2. Anyway, if we can just, get rid of all of our goat boy jealousy, the fact that we all wanted to be those headbands that he wears. I remember when I was in it was actually before school started, I took tap and ballet lessons at the Y, and there was this girl named Hope, and she used to wear the little multicolored headbands, and I thought they were really cute. But I wouldn't have worn them at all later on in life, like 4, 5, 6 years old. Those are cute. Maybe 3rd and 4th grade, lots of doodads in your hair, but even for a girl, as you get older, those start to look really kitschy and stupid. Plastic headbands, not supernatural, the plastic headband. I mean, but I'll admit, just something about seeing that stirs up a bunch of jealousy. Something about seeing someone screaming in Phoenix because, the accommodations, they wouldn't actually give him a place to be. And he didn't know what to do with himself, Mr. Nature. I mean, he always films being out there in the woods, but when he didn't have accommodations that night, he was really upset. Where's he going to sleep, He has to deal with the fact that he is a hobosexual. So, hobosexual is someone who gets in relationships with people so they have some place to live. Anywho, yeah, I'm super jealous of all of that. You got me. But because of my terrible jealousy of Goat Boy, I'm going to try to answer all of this. When I have the ins and outs, I'll do a video about that and fill you guys in. And in the meantime, I will be pretty busy in April and May, but I will make content of some sort at some point, saying something about these shitheads. I'm sure I can find some humor or something I'm super jealous of that I can talk about, right? Alrighty. Thank you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.